Today you're going to learn how to build an auto-rotating spit roast, a fun mechanism that was first invented by none other than Leonardo da Vinci.
It wraps around, it turns the rotisserie, and then it spins again, and that rock drops just a little bit.
So we have a spindle with a thread of rope on a rock. Now each time that spins, the rock wraps around the outer post, slowing it down from just spinning wildly. And as it turns to the other post, it releases just a little bit of rope. You can see it coiled up here. Now that rope is what turns the main spit, which in this case will evenly cook the chicken. Now if we continue past, you can see there's a counterweight that's hung up high. This is what pulls the whole thing, holds tension, and causes the mechanism to unwind in the first place. Once this hits the ground, you'll need to reset it, but it's about 10 to 20 minutes of turning before you even need to reset it. So building this from scratch, I just start with making my campfire pit, getting the rocks, and then making a very basic spit. Just hammer in 2 Y sticks and a crossbeam on top.
So this is just a traditional spit right now. You'd put a piece of meat or something to cook on here and slowly turn it manually so it cooks evenly on all the sides. So first I'm just gonna debark this entire thing.
Once the traditional spit is done, it's time to build the escapement frame. So get 2 vertical sticks and you're gonna strip the bark off of these as well.
Okay, so we got our 2 support beams here. I've stripped the bark off and we're gonna have 1 cross beam. Now in the middle of this cross beam, I need to bore a hole with my knife, and I'm gonna do that just by pushing in and twisting and then constantly just doing this, just boring a hole right through. Just make sure it's centered.
Now if you're at a cottage setting, you could always use a drill to do this part, but this can all be achieved easily with hand tools as well.
Perfect. Now I'm gonna do the same with a round at the bottom. So we have this, and just gonna get to work again.
Now we're gonna bury this in the ground at the exact center of that frame, lining up with the top hole. Make sure it's secure in the ground by either tapping it in or putting a rock right in front of it.
Now we have this one with the hole and that one with the hole, and we need 1 stick to fit just like that, all the way up. And we'll trim the ends to fit in that hole perfectly, and trim the other end to fit in this hole here.
So this is essentially a Bushcraft axle we're gonna make, just carving a thin portion in each of the ends so that it could rotate freely. After carving one side, just make sure it fits in that top stick perfectly.
Fits in perfect. We want to turn just like that.
So you'll want to carve this shape at each end of your spindle stick, one at the top to rotate and the other one so it could rotate on that bottom. The next step is adding a small cross, and one of the ways to do this is by using a dovetail joint. Just saw in at 45-degree angles on that main spindle, and then you could easily carve out in between just with your knife. And then on a cross stick, you just want to carve the same shape.
All right.
Then you could hammer that in and it should hold really tight.
So now we have that secure. All right, perfect. We'll have to now secure this, and we'll use a square lashing. So on my Bare Essentials knot tying card, you could see there's an example exactly what I'm trying to do there. And this one's hanging over a fire in a spit, just like what we're doing. So it has a little number, that's number 9. So we'll just go to number 9. You could see here, that's the square lashing, and that's exactly how to do it in all the steps. So we want this to freely spin and go pretty close to each one. That spins freely now. Okay, on to the next step. A small stone. What we're gonna do is tie a rope around this, and we're gonna use the monkey fist knot to do it. And I'll cover this in a specific video because it's hard for me to show right now. Now we're gonna tie this to the end, and I'm gonna use a constrictor knot here. See how this works. It spins, wraps around, unwraps, and then spins. Now you might ask, what is the mechanism to keep this spinning on its own? Well, I'll show you. First things first, on this spit here, we want to make sure that turns nice and easily. We'll go up top and have a bracket here so it cannot come loose. So now here's the big challenge. We have to tie a rope to this center spinning stick And that's going to twist around and make it want to turn. The inertia is going to be wanting it to spin. That continues and wraps around our rotisserie stick, which then continues and goes somewhere up there, and there's going to be a heavy rock on the other side that slowly comes down. So it gets pulled down and twists everything very slowly, and then in theory it spins the rotisserie by itself over a decent amount of time rather than me there twisting it. So I have to build a ladder to get up there and set up an anchor, then anchor a big rock. So that's what we'll do. Now we have our big rock here, and we'll attach it with the double dragon knot, which was in our last video. Okay, so we have our rock there, and we'll have that tight and wrapped around. Continue that, cinched all the way up. What I'm going to do is hoist that rope up first, and then we'll spin this. Okay, now that that's taut, let's wind this up. Each time this spins, it wraps around, it turns the rotisserie, and then it spins again. And that rock drops just a little bit. Alright, so the DaVinci spit is working. It's spinning the chicken a whole bunch though, but it's still cooking nicely. Every second rotation it does a huge spin. So I've added in a bunch of sticks here just to give it more surface area and make it perfectly in line. See, and it spins around. And then it spins again, and each time it lets a little bit of rope go. We follow that, and it turns with each revolution. And we follow this, and you can see this rock here is just going to lower on its own every few seconds. There it goes.